It's the Poojie Podcast, proudly sponsored by Cimarron Golf Club. What is going on, Pooj crew? Thank you for being here for episode 73 of the Poojie Podcast, the big 7-3. We are only 27 episodes away from 100, and we are actually approaching our 1-year anniversary. So to all the fans out there, thank you for sticking by me and being a fan of the show. I think April 1st or 2nd might be the 1-year anniversary of the podcast, and it has flown by, but it's been a lot of fun with a lot of great people on here, interviewing, panel discussions, thoughts, topics, all that great stuff. So follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter for the Poojie Parlay 4-packs, do picks every now and then. Fun memes, different conversations to be had on Instagram. And as always, thank you to Strings Sports Brewery for helping support the podcast. They do a great job up there on Main Street, just north of downtown Jacksonville. Definitely go check out Strings Sports Brewery during college football season, which is exactly what we are here to talk about today. UCF fans, I know you saw my Gus Malzahn video from 2 weeks ago when we hired him, a off-the-cuff, raw, unedited video about the Gus Malzahn hire. And something I talked about was recruiting. And my, oh my, guys, if you want to jump in, what is Gus Malzahn doing on the recruiting trail? Grabbing 4 stars from Auburn, grabbing transfers from Auburn, from all over the place, really. And we are offering people left and right. Does that get you guys excited?
Oh, very excited. I mean, we're doing a lot better than what Josh Heupel was doing. We're pulling people from Auburn that just want to come play for Gus, and then they know UCF is a brand that's on the up and up, so they're buying in. They're saying we're going to go to our coach that was recruiting us before at Auburn, and now he's at UCF on an up and coming team. So might as well just join that team.
I like it. If you can't beat them, join them, right? A lot of players from that 2017 Peach Bowl Auburn team, including Gus Malzahn and some assistant coaches joining the UCF staff. I'm excited. Nate Craig Myers, a 4-star wide receiver from Colorado State that started at Auburn. Big Cat Bryant today just announced his commitment after the crystal ball prediction had him going to Oklahoma. He flipped the script there, and he is now a 4-star weak side defensive end coming to UCF. And, of course, Mark Anthony Richards to solidify the running back depth there with Greg McCrae still and Bentavious Thompson and a lot of Trillionaire Coles. We got Trillion Coles. We got a bunch of great running backs there at UCF. Dylan Gabriel is going to have a lot of fun on offense this season. I hope Malzahn can keep the offensive juggernaut rolling. Jacob, what about you? What are your thoughts so far with this this recruiting trail that Gus has put together over the last 2 or 3 weeks since he started?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be excited just because, like Luke said, we wouldn't be doing this if it was Heupel. And I feel like Malzahn knows nothing else than going after the top players. I mean, he's been in a Power 5 program. That was what he did. These are the guys he went after. I mean, some of these are transfers, but he's telling us he's going to offer the best players in the country, and he's going to go after the best players in the country. And so it's kind of like, shoot for the stars, land on the moon type thing. Like Heupel probably wouldn't have really gone after these guys. And it's like when you're, a first-time head coach, or you're trying to get your bearings and build some credibility, you just kind of almost have tunnel vision. Oh, this is what I got to do. Where Malzahn's like, no, I go after the best guys in the country, and we're going to compete with the top schools for the best guys. And who knows, maybe with who we are and who our new coach is, these guys will be willing to come play and play right away and start and look good on a national stage, because that's what we are now. We're a team on the national spotlight. So, I mean, I could see it as a win-win for a lot of these teams. I mean, a lot of these players and then us. So I like that he's going for, an aggressive style of recruiting.
Yeah, exactly. You can't get the 4- and 5-star guys if you're not going to offer the 4- and 5-star guys. And with Frost and then Heupel, now don't get me wrong, I feel like if Frost had stayed, he would have gotten to the point where he was pulling 4 stars and offering 5 stars. Whether or not they came and played would be a different story. But I feel like with the current climate, with Malzahn, with the respect he brings into UCF, we're seeing the fruits of that labor in person right now, just merely with these recruits. And I've said it for a long time. I don't care what fans of other programs say. I don't care what the national media says. The only thing that matters is what recruits and prospects feel about a program. And I think Malzahn brings a lot of credibility and respect with him to UCF. And real quick, Luke, I know we talked a little bit earlier this week. huge weekend series for UCF baseball against Ole Miss last weekend, knocking off the Ole Miss Rebels, number one team in the country. First time in their program they've been number one. Took 2 out of 3 games from them, blew a 2-run lead in the bottom of the 9th in the second game. Could have easily swept the number one team in the country. How does that make you feel?
It's very interesting because we started off going 1-2 versus FAU, who's now ranked 24. I saw some ranking had them at 24, so I guess they're a good team. And then Stetson came in. We were trying to have a fun time down here at UCF, balloons and everything, and they came in and stole all of our balloons and beat us 12-0. So it's like the Mad Hatters came in and destroyed us, and it's like, wow, this team is falling apart. Generally, that happens in the middle of the season, not the beginning. And then maybe they were just looking ahead to this weekend series versus Ole Miss, who was ranked number one. And we went out there and played really well. The only game we lost was by 1 run. So good on that weekend. It's just I would like to see more out of the Stetson and the FAU games as well.
And just to kind of put a footnote in there, Coach Lovelady was actually not managing the team those first 4 games of the season. He was out with COVID. So the first series against Ole Miss was really Lovelady's first series with the team in 2021. So maybe that's a sign for things to come. This team has felt like it's been on the brink of excellence over the last 3 or 4 seasons. We saw them win the regular season American a few years ago when we were still in school there, and then unfortunately didn't even win the first round of the AAC tournament. But this team looks good. They look like they have some players, and that's the beauty of college baseball, being able to go out and find those gems. Obviously, beginning of March, we got March Madness coming up with basketball. I don't think any of us predict UCF's going to be in that, so we won't waste our time there. Coach Dawkins has to figure that out himself. But let's jump into some UCF football talk. We talked a little bit about recruiting. We talked some more about Malzahn. Let's get into this 2021 schedule that just got released about a week and a half ago. We've had time to look at it. We're excited. People are coming out. Athletic directors are talking about full capacity at stadiums, which first and foremost, that means 100% tailgating possibly.
I mean, why not? If you're going to sit me next to someone at the stadium, you bet your ass that I'm going to drink a beer with them on Memory Mall.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, hey, football is not the same without that tailgating experience. And then obviously the full stadium atmosphere. Alabama came out and mentioned they'd be at full capacity, which quite honestly is double the capacity of UCF Stadium. So that's going to be wild, but I don't think they care in Alabama, to be quite honest with you. But first game of the 2021 season is a huge game for Gus Malzahn. This is going to be a statement game at home against the Boise State Broncos, and it has a little bit of an old guard versus new guard feel to it. Many people compare these two programs in separate decades as to what they've done on the national stage for the group of 5. What do you guys see in this game, or what are your feelings on this game as far as excitement goes?
This game I'm very excited for. As soon as they announced the Boise State matchups, where we have them here, and I think they were there, it's 1-for-1, I believe. It was a 2-for-1.
No,
okay.
It's a home and home, yeah.
Yeah. So I was very excited seeing them. It's like the top group of 5 program versus another top group of 5 program. Essentially, the American has footholded itself as the top group of 5 conference, and then Boise State's basically up there, locking down the last spot after the American Conference, and generally flip-flopping between the American Conference best team or Boise State. So yeah, having those two pair off is going to be fun. Yeah.
The American Conference might as well be considered the next automatic qualifier in the New Year's Six bowl games. We've had most recently Cincinnati, then Memphis, and then UCF back-to-back years, 4 times in a row in the New Year's Six. So it's kind of become the American athletic conference's spot in the New Year's Six bowl games. But like you mentioned, Boise State has been there, done that. Now, this is going to be Gus Malzahn's first game. Boise State's coach, this will be his 8th season. I think it's Brian Harkins or Harsin, I think it is. And they got a young quarterback that was injured mostly last year, only played a handful of games full all the way through. I'm kind of excited to see how the UCF offense can handle the Boise State experienced defense. I mean, they're coming off of a shortened season. They went 5-2 last year, 5-0 in the conference, the Mountain West Conference. But do you think this offense, Jacob, picks up where they left off in the past? Do you think they maybe find a new ceiling, or what are we going to look at?
I'm actually glad you asked me that question, because based on what Luke was saying, what I was going to say is, like, I'm excited for this Boise State game, but for a little bit I was kind of unsure because, you know, we have our expectations, our new era expectations of UCF, and I think after last season ended the way it did, losing our AD, losing our head coach, even though we felt like we can improve at head coach, I feel like we were a little worried about the trajectory of the team. But now with Gus Malzahn coming in and bringing what he's been bringing in terms of like an offense or a staff, these transfers, I think there's even more excitement now about this game and our ability to win this game and have a really great offensive game than, you know, with Josh Heupel. I think if you're a UCF fan and you were thinking we were going to put up, you know, a bunch of points, do what we usually do, Gus Malzahn fits right into that. So I think that's exciting. And I think the defense, I hope that, you know, he wants to build a really, really good defense. He keeps saying top 10. So if we can really work on that too, who knows? But I'm really confident about this game. It's going to be exciting. It is, you know, the old guard, the new guard, UCF. I mean, it's easier for UCF right now, I feel, in the American Conference to compete for that New Year's Six Bowl because the conference as a whole is much stronger to build your resume, as everyone in college football is worried about. So that kind of just gives us the upper hand. But yeah, I think the offense is going to play lights out. We're getting new guys that are 4-star players. We don't even know what more will come in, let alone like, so 4-star running back, 4-star receiver, Dylan Gabriel, Heisman candidate, in our opinion. I think you just got to be excited as a UCF fan and hope that it's full capacity and full memory mall tailgating for this one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this takes me back to the 2019 game against, or 2018 game against Cincinnati, where the bounce house was rocking. And this is opening weekend of college football. This very well could be the Friday night game, potentially the Saturday night game on national TV. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And let's not get it twisted. 2019 Boise State went 12-2, came into the state of Florida, played in Jacksonville, beat FSU, which is obviously a down FSU team, but a pretty big statement win for Boise State in that game against FSU. And then last year in 2020, their only two losses came to BYU, who was ranked 19th at the time, and San Jose State. But if UCF can do what BYU did to this team, to Boise State, that's the type of resume building win. I mean, BYU won 52-17 last year over Boise State. If we can do something like that, that's the type of win that when people look back on it, that's not just another win over a good group of 5 team. That's a dominant performance over a top group of 5 team. I think that's what it's going to take. Last question for you. We mentioned it a few times about the American being the stronghold of the group of 5. 11 teams in the conference. UConn dropped out. We'll get to them in a little bit. Could you see Boise State maybe being that 12th team that slides into the American if things go the right way over the next few years?
They're in the Mountain West, correct?
Yes, Mountain West.
Yeah. I've seen that they want to leave the Mountain West. The problem is they're in Boise, so it's so far away from other teams. But I have seen that they want to leave and maybe join the American for football only.
I think San Diego State and Boise State would kind of be solid options to join the conference if that ever were the case. Let's hope that UCF maybe joins a different conference by that time, that would happen to where we maybe get some more exposure in something like the ACC or the Big 12. Well, let's go to the next game. Not really too exciting of a game to look at, but kind of nice. Hopefully we're coming off a win. Well, first of all, Luke, Jacob, what are your predictions for that Boise State game?
100-0.
100-0. Jacob's taking the dub.
No, I'm kidding.
I will also take a win, opening game at home. Gus Malzahn is going to be prepped and ready to go. And I think we're going to get the W at home, Knights by 90.
Knights by 90. So Jacob has Knights by 100. Luke has Knights by 90.
You're talking about the Bethune-Cookman game?
No, I'm going Boise State. Boise State.
My bad. I thought you said something about Bethune-Cookman.
No,
okay,
I did, but I want to get the final picks for Boise State.
Yeah, Boise State. I'm not saying by 100. But yeah, I do think we win that game, and I think we can win by a couple touchdowns.
I like it. All right, so we're all three taking dubs there in the season opener. Let's get to Bethune-Cookman, a team that did not play in 2020. Their season got canceled. And let's be real, if they did play, no one would have even known it, so it doesn't really matter. Unfortunately, I feel bad saying that. But in 2019, they went 7-4. They started the season pretty hot, 6-1, with their only loss coming to Miami, 63-0. And then they finished the season 1-3 to finish 7-4 overall. Only question I have, any reason to doubt or be nervous at all? Can we all three take dubs and move on to the next game?
This is when I meant 100-0. I thought this is what you were asking about.
All right.
Knights by 90.
Knights by 90 in the first two games for Luke. Jacob, Knights by 100 in the first two games. So, all right, Bethune-Cookman, we take the dub there. Back-to-back home games to open the season. And then we have a fun one to get to. Just our luck, another average to below average Atlantic Coast Conference team, as is tradition with Georgia Tech and UNC in the past and all those other below average ACC teams that we've played in the past. But we have the Louisville Cardinals. We've played them one time in our history, and I think we all remember that game extremely well back in 2013.
Oh, yeah.
The funny thing is that game, I went home. That was our freshman year, and I went home to go watch like my high school's homecoming game, and I saw we were losing by so many points, and I just didn't even check ESPN until the morning, and I was like, oh my god, like there's no way.
I literally, I know that a lot of you guys, a lot of our friends were watching the game, and I wasn't there, and I wasn't really paying close attention, but the game was on TV in our dorm room, Justin, and I remember seeing like what Luke said, we were down. And I'm like, oh, that sucks, whatever. I go back to doing whatever I'm doing. I think I'm like, cleaning up, whatever. I don't know. I look back like 5 minutes later. I'm like, oh, we scored. Okay. And then I look away. And then all of a sudden I look back. Oh, we scored again. And all of a sudden, like within no time, I just see that we're now in a position to win this game. And you guys come screaming, yelling back from like whatever restaurant y'all watching the game. Sports
Tilted
bar.
Kilt. Rest
and
in
it's
peace.
like, you kind of, that was our first year of being UCF fans, being like freshmen there. And so you kind of didn't know what to expect. So to look at us and be like, oh, we're down, you're like, okay, that sucks. We lost this game. And they just made, a great comeback. And, that was Teddy Bridgewater, right? That was leading that Louisville team. And
yeah.
And Blake took the W on that one.
Yeah. And they had Devontae Parker. And I didn't bring up that game to draw any comparisons. Let's be honest. The teams are completely different. No one's the same. Coaches have changed. That was Charlie Strong versus George O'Leary. They're not – Charlie Strong's in Jacksonville now as our defensive assistant or whatever it is. But not drawing any comparisons, just kind of fun to reminisce about that game. Interesting fact, UCF was down 14-7 at halftime in that game. So you're talking about being blown out. We were like losing by 28 points in the second half. In the third quarter is where all those points were scored. In fact, Louisville, I think, even had a fumble return for a touchdown. And then UCF went ground and pound, gave the ball to Storm Johnson. He popped off. Blake only had 250 yards passing, but the ultimate pass was to Jeff Godfrey with like 7 seconds left to win the game. And as Floppy Tom says, weird things happen on Friday night when the leaves are changing in fall. So fun game there in 2013. They were the 8th-ranked team in the country. UCF won 38-35. What are your thoughts on this game going to Louisville heading into 2021?
I mean, I think I'm confident in this game too. I what you said is like we have back-to-back home games, which I think is really great for like a new coach in Malzahn and new staff to kind of get their get everything going. That by the time we get to play away against Louisville, I think we'll be fine, and I think we'll just show, we're a better team. What do you think, Luke?
So looking at Louisville's schedule, they actually open up against Ole Miss on Monday. And then that same week, they're playing Eastern Kentucky on a Saturday, so it's pretty easy. And then they play us, what is currently scheduled for a Friday night. So a little repeat, of 2013. But also the next week, they're playing Florida State. And they could potentially try and overlook us, but I think our brand's high enough now that they really can't. but that is kind of opening up their conference season, and Florida State is all revamped and retooled and ready to go this season.
Kenzie Milton.
So they might be preparing for Florida State, and then they might overlook us and drop Friday night game against UCF.
Yeah, no, I like it. I mean, a lot to look forward to there in FSU as well. Mackenzie Milton, Mike Norvell's tearing it up as well with recruits. So right now, as far as trajectory goes, I would say UCF and FSU are on the rise a little bit more drastically than Florida or Miami as far as the outlook of the future, short term, that is, of course. But valid point, that big conference game following the UCF game, easy to overlook a non-conference game. But unfortunately, I think UCF has kind of, like you said, developed that brand to where it's hard to overlook a team like UCF. We're circled on everyone's schedule. We are a lot of teams' biggest games, especially within our conference. I'm not saying we are for Louisville, but obviously they're going to give us their best effort. They did go 4-7 in 2020, down year for them. Their quarterback is almost identical to Lamar Jackson, to be honest with you. He is a runner and somewhat of a passer, 2,600 yards passing last year, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and had 600 yards on the ground in 11 games with 7 touchdowns. So that's something to keep an eye on. The defense has to do a good job of containing Malik Cunningham Jr., but I think this is a game that UCF will come out victorious and start the season 0-3. Their 3 games against ranked opponents last year for Louisville, they lost all 3 of them, albeit very close games to Notre Dame, Pitt, and Miami. But I think UCF is going to win this one for their 3rd win of the season.
Same. Taking UCF Friday night lights.
Friday night nights.
Friday night nights.
Friday night nights. All right, well, let's get to the next.
That?
What's up?
Have people ever said that? That should be a thing if that's not a thing.
I feel like that's a pub or a library thing.
Well, maybe we should make it a everything thing.
Friday night nights. I like it. So speaking of opening up conference play, I think we have a week off after the Louisville game. Maybe it's the following week, but we open up conference play at Navy. Navy, a game back in 2017 that they almost upset us to upset the perfect season. Brandon Bam Moore came up with the clutch fumble on the 1-yard line to keep UCF in winning position, turned into a touchback for UCF. We ended up icing the game, winning that game by the skin of our teeth, but we won it nonetheless, the Cardiac Knights. So we have Navy. Navy went 3-7 last year. We are 2-0 against Navy all time. And the thing I want to mention here is it feels like no matter what Navy's coach does, he will never get fired. This will be his 14th season there. I can't pronounce his last name. Let me try and read it. Ken Niumatalolo. Matololo.
Oh, he's Samoan?
Yeah, he's Samoan.
Yeah, he is.
Navy opened up the season in 2020, losing to BYU 55-3. I think we remember watching that game all together. And they ended the season on a 5-game losing streak. So,
I mean, I think so, kind of like the Louisville game, but then this will be where we kind of figure out Malzahn wants to build a really good defense, and I feel like in the last few years that's been lacking. So this is going to kind of test us with this Navy triple option run game and all that, because we even know when our team was really good how much of an annoyance that was and a problem that ended up being. So I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of defense and scheme Malzahn can implement. And we might get an early test with what you said with the quarterback, with the Cardinals, and then this run game, see what we got.
Yeah, Navy's interesting because they'll play games where they look like they're not even on the field. Like when they played BYU, shouldn't even shown up at that point. But then they'll play games and it looks like they're competent. They're running really good triple option. So it's going to come down to the defense. And if they can stop the triple option, then we're going to get the Navy that doesn't show up. And if the triple option's running all over us, then we're expecting to be in a dogfight. So I think this one's going to be the closest score-wise.
I think what's funny about what you just said is UCF is so used to having a lot of possessions, but the way Navy operates is like the exact opposite, where they just eat up the clock and take care of the ball. So we've seen that in the past where, well, first of all, back in 2017, 0 pass attempts, 2 pass attempts, 0 completions, 63 rushes for 375 yards. UCF had 51 rushes for 300 yards. And then the game in, or that was 2018. The game in 2017, let me see here. Okay, so the game in 2017, they had 5 pass completions for 171 yards. So they averaged 35 yards per completion.
You're never expecting it, and it's always like 30 yards downfield.
And it's always like the tight end up the middle after like shedding a block. He always just opens up in the middle of the field. So Navy does run an extremely weird offense. They lost 12-0 against Army, but they had a down year last year. Navy did. So I'm also going to take a win here. You guys taking wins as well?
Yes. I'm taking a win.
All right. So we start 4-0. To start the season, 1-0 in conference play to start the season. And then we come back home against ECU, 9-7 against ECU overall against them in the history of the two teams playing. ECU was 3-6 last year, not too strong of a season for them. They haven't beaten us since 2015. And I think the funny thing about ECU is no matter how good they are, this always feels like a scary game for me. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the whole Hail Perry from back in 2014 or 2015. Yeah, 2014. But every time we play ECU, I always get a little nervous. We've beaten them pretty handedly in the past, but they're just a weird team that wants to be good, but they're afraid to be good.
I never like playing them if it's in Greenville. I feel like all the scary stuff that you're talking about, like whenever it's really close, it happens when we're at ECU. Luckily, we're at home this year, so I think this is going to be handily won. But if we were up there in ECU, I don't know, I'd be kind of scared of it as well.
No, yeah, I completely agree with that. I feel like Dylan Gabriel has shown he's usually playing well at home. Regardless, I know Justin was freaking out last year when we played them. I don't think he was even able to watch past like the first 5-10 minutes. I think
it scares me. I'm sorry, it scares me.
I think we'll be fine at home. I think our home field advantage will show up if that's the case.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was a close game last year at halftime, or at least in the second quarter. UCF ended up winning 51-28, which I don't put too much weight on that 28 points allowed, just because with the way our offense operates, the other teams always get a lot of possessions, and they're going to score, especially late in the game. We've seen that in the past where we are the worst team to pick to cover any spread because we let up 2 touchdowns in the last 5 minutes almost every game. So they did lose 55-17 to Cincinnati last year, and they also lost to Georgia State as well with really no marquee wins. So I'm taking this as a W as well to start off 5-0. What about you guys?
W.
I'm taking the win.
All right, sure. We're taking the win. So we start 5-0, 2-0 in conference play. And then the fun begins.
Oh, boy.
So real quick about ECU, I believe that game was actually the game where we started with 5 false starts. We had like a 1st and 40 or something like that.
Don't remind me.
Justin was literally getting so pissed off. Even Matt, who's not even a UCF fan, was getting angry. And I'm like, come on, guys, we got this. But, Justin was right to kind of be annoyed with that. We had what? What did you say it was?
I think it was 5. I think for sure it was
5 false starts to start the game. We were 1st and 35. Actually, I think it was like 1st and 30 because we were it was half the distance to the goal for the last 2 false starts. So it was like 1st and 30 or 1st and 25 or whatever it was. And ironically enough, we ended up converting the first down 3 plays later, I think. So it was a pretty wild start to that game. And so, hey, in my defense, Jacob, what did I say about that game when that was happening as to what it meant for the future of the season?
Nope, you absolutely were right because I was very calm during that entire thing. And I think it's because how UCF has been these last handful of years. I'm like, I'm not worried. Yeah, this is dumb, but we're still going to win. We're still going to be fine. But you were worried that, if this is the kind of lack of discipline or kind of mistakes that we're making, yeah, it's showing up against ECU and we're going to win despite it. But I mean, this isn't looking good for our long-term future and our long-term success in terms of running this style of offense and being disciplined. And we have young guys on the line as opposed to the guys we had during that run, with Mackenzie Milton.
Yeah. And honestly, like over the last 3 months, we've learned more about the lack of discipline. We've learned that Josh Heupel lost the locker room. There was even some funny rumors floating around that Marlon Williams tweeted out that he would have stayed to play for Gus Malzahn if he would have known that was going to happen. He was joking, but I think that just goes to show just how far gone this program was on Josh Heupel. They were definitely not sold on him as the future. So I think with Danny White leaving and Josh Heupel leaving, it was almost like a blessing in disguise for a breath of fresh air for the program, for some of the players. To be honest, if Heupel had stayed, I wonder how many of these UCF players would have transferred instead of stayed, and now we're collecting a lot of other transfers. Do you think that would have happened?
The thing is that when we as fans, and I know a majority of fans were pretty excited when Josh Heupel left, and if we as fans already don't like him, imagine the locker room. Like they are closer and more personal with him than we are. And if we already don't like him, I can only imagine the locker room having.
Well, and think about it too, though. It's like whether you were part of the teams that went, part of the team that went 25-0, or if you were not, you still knew what UCF was at that time. So to be like, wow, this is the guy leading us, and like, this is what this team was just a couple seasons ago, and look at us now. And you, as a player, even though you're not the one held accountable for everything, you yourself just want to be like, accountable for your own team. Like, this isn't what UCF is. This isn't what we've been. So like, why is he cool with it? And why is he not like doing more to fix these things?
Yeah, that's a great point. It felt like we had enough talent on the roster to make Heupel look good and win some games, like even the 2018 season, winning the conference championship and then going on to lose to LSU in the Fiesta Bowl. It almost felt like Josh Heupel was just reaping the benefits of the Scott Frost team. And then over the last 3 years, as that talent was leaving and going out the door, you also saw the regression of Josh Heupel along with the program. So I completely agree. You're a part of those successful teams, and you're like, this is not who UCF is. The talent was still there, but the coaching edge was not there anymore. So, and it felt like the hire of Malzahn and Terry Mohajer, I think is how you pronounce it, Mohajer.
Yep.
I feel like I don't know what the other options would have been, but given the circumstances, it literally feels like now, today, that was the only move that would have UCF in this positive spot. Like, I feel so optimistic about the future, more optimistic than I did after the first season with Scott Frost, because Gus Malzahn doesn't feel like he's the type of guy that's going to jump ship to leave too soon. But anyway, back to what we were talking about with Cincinnati. Big game at Cincinnati. Rest in peace, Daniel's Pub. R.I.P. Tony the bartender.
Tony's the man.
I mean, hey, when I think of Cincinnati, all I think of is everything besides the game, and then storming the field after the game was over. And we lost the game, whatever. It was bad. But it was a hell of a time up there at Nipper. I mean, both of you guys
It was a really cool stadium. I did enjoy the stadium.
We learned a few Cincinnati chants. We just added on to it, made it the UCF chant.
Oh, yeah. They hit us with the UCF.
Dummies.
Yeah. What were they thinking? And then the Bearcat, the Cincinnati Bearcat, was looking at me all creepy like he did back at College Game Day a few years ago. So not a big fan of that guy, actually. He's a creepy mascot. If there's one mascot I don't want to run into in a dark alley, it's the Cincinnati Bearcat, because the dude is like 7'5".
He's going to be in your comments, bro. Watch out.
Oh, God. He's a scary guy. But to the game, Desmond Ridder is still at Cincinnati. Luke Fickell is still at Cincinnati. UCF lost to this team 36-33 last year in 2020, a game that, again, because of Heupel, it felt like we lost. We were winning by, I think, 10 or 11 points, and that was one of the 3 double-digit leads that we blew in 2020. So here's to blown double-digit leads by Josh Heupel.
Yeah, this will be a good test to see the maturation of Dylan Gabriel. And then, like I keep mentioning as earlier, like, because our defense has been lacking. Like, we had some star playmakers, on our 2017 team, that overall the defense didn't always look great, but it's because we played so fast and they were always like on the field to have points scored on them. But if Malzahn can put a defense that, this is one of the premier teams of the group of five. It's not just us now. There's Cincinnati. There's, we need to see if Dylan Gabriel, though, can also mature and lead the team, and maybe Malzahn will help that, because I know, didn't he throw a couple of picks, some picks at the end of the game?
Yeah, Gabriel threw a couple of picks at the end of the game in 2019. Ritter, the reason I felt like UCF threw that game away last year was because Ritter did not have that great of a showing against UCF, and UCF just was not able to capitalize at all on any of his mistakes. I think they had a handful of points off turnovers, and they had 3 or 4 turnovers. 2017, 2018 UCF would have iced that game down. 2020 UCF under Josh Heupel learned how to blow the lead. So,
and it was 2019 I was thinking about, because I was just thinking about the game we went to, which was amazing trip. But I don't know. I hope the coaching decisions, from Malzahn are just a lot better overall and keep us running.
Not to mention, this game is at Cincinnati, so it's any advantage that I think we had, at home. Every time I think of Cincinnati, I think of the College game day game, but this is us going into their house. Now, what I am happy about is this is going to be our 6th game of the season. So hopefully at that point, the team has kind of already has some structure under Malzahn. Now, if this was opening weekend at Cincinnati, that's a whole different story. But hopefully by this point, our identity is solidified. Hopefully with some of these recruits we're bringing in, some of these transfers we're bringing in, we can compete defensively with Cincinnati, because that has been, outside of Desmond Ritter and what they've done on offense, their defense has been what has held them in the top 15 of the polls over the last 2 seasons. So
I believe their defensive coordinator actually went to Notre Dame.
Oh, did he?
I'm pretty sure he went to Notre Dame.
And to be honest with you, I was and Paul Feinbaum said this when I was on the show the other day. He mentioned about the trajectories are similar, but UCF's in a better spot because Luke Fickell seems like the kind of guy that's going to be leaving sometime soon, and Desmond Ritter is about to graduate. So if you look at the current here and now, Cincinnati losing their defensive coordinator almost feels like the first domino to fall to them experiencing what UCF did in 2019 and 2020 under Josh Heupel. That's just how it feels to me. Unless the American Conference gets this exuberant amount of respect over the next 6 months to where Fickell doesn't feel the need to leave to go to a Power 5 school. So
I believe he was at Michigan State and declined. So, I think he is wanting to stay in Cincinnati unless he has a dream destination.
And that's kind of ironic. Hey, if that doesn't tell you about the current climate of football, of group of 5 coaches turning down Power 5 jobs, I don't know what will, because I did know that about Fickell. And Gus Malzahn was available for Tennessee and didn't want that job. And Gus Malzahn was available for a handful of other jobs that were open this offseason. And he made the conscious decision to come to UCF. So it almost those coaches making those decisions almost changes the platform, the balance. It swings the momentum a little bit.
Which game? Because I was going to say, I feel like this is our first real test. But then I'm like, oh crap, we do play Boise State, who, is supposed to be, another top, I wouldn't say top, another good group of 5 team. Would you say that I'm right in saying that this is going to be our first real test playing Cincinnati rather than Boise State? Are you not as worried about Boise State as you are seeing what we do on this game?
Gosh, it's hard for me to answer that. I'm nervous about the Boise State game because it's the first game of the season.
Yeah.
The Cincinnati game I'm more nervous about because it feels like they have had our number the last few seasons since that 2018 season with College game day. We've handled Memphis in the past. We've handled them. It feels like Cincinnati has done that to us over the last few seasons.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we're in a revenge situation against Cincinnati of almost, like you said, taking back, the crown of the American Conference is kind of what it feels like to me. But to kind of compare your question, it almost feels like a Florida fan being asked, what do they care about more, beating Georgia or beating FSU? Because One's a non-conference game, but it's a big game. The other is a conference game, and it's a big game. So I would say the Cincinnati game holds more water because of what it means for our conference standing.
And I was going to say, too, because I feel like if we beat Boise State, we're not going to be like, screaming, yelling, oh, my gosh, we beat Boise State, blah, blah, blah. But if we lose to them, I feel like people will make that a storyline. But if we beat them, we're not going to be thinking anything crazy. It's just going to be like we felt we were a better team and we showed it. But when Cincinnati comes around, that's going to be the game. Like you said, it is our conference. Everyone's going to be hyped for it. And if we win that, it's going to be more of like a breath of fresh air, a breath of relief, sigh of relief, if you will, because, that team has actually had the history of more recently playing well against us.
Yeah, and I mean, so Cincinnati played Georgia in the Peach Bowl in 2020, like this past postseason. Were you guys happy or sad, or what were your feelings on Cincinnati losing? They were 9-0 going into that game. They had 2 games against Tulsa canceled until the conference championship, which they won, which we'll get to Tulsa at the end of the show. What were your thoughts on the Peach Bowl with Cincinnati versus Georgia?
They threw that game against Georgia. I mean, I think they were in a handily spot, ready to win, and they kind of threw the game. It seems like just took their foot off the gas or something. I don't know. It just didn't seem like they were in it to win at the end. So
definitely, I was upset. I know they're our conference rival, but I feel like even though they kind of talk some crap, they're in the same fight that we're fighting in terms of being a group of 5 team and trying to earn that respect. So I feel like while, Cincinnati fans might have dogged us, I think some UCF fans, some of them probably, I hope Cincinnati loses, but there's others that it's like, we want them to succeed because if they can succeed on this level, it'll help us in our future if we get back to that level to maintain the AAC's, kind of relevance and their credibility. So yeah, I was kind of upset to see, but I mean, at least it showed they competed with that team. But like Luke said, they kind of gave it away. It felt like they had it in the bag. It was kind of just sad watching them lose on that field goal.
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately it came down to the better athletes playing better and the more experienced coaching better. Like that's what it kind of came down to in the second half. I was very bittersweet the whole game because I wanted them to win for the American Conference sake, but I also was kind of bitter about the way they treated us back in 2017 when they were irrelevant in the college football world. Let's not forget we beat them by 40 points and only played 3 quarters back in 2017 against Cincinnati. And I was a little bitter about the way they treated us, and it felt weird trying to pull for Cincinnati after knowing that they badmouthed us so much in our efforts to kind of build up the conference. I think it would have been a great look for the American Conference, but like you said, Jacob, I think ultimately the best possible outcome happened. They competed on the field. They played extremely tough. They lost a close game, and yet again, they showed that they can compete. Now, 4 years in a row, the American Conference has shown that they can compete at the highest level with Auburn, LSU, Penn State, and now Georgia in that game. So just mentioned Memphis, another revenge game coming up for UCF, this time at home. Actually, win-losses for Cincinnati. What do you guys got?
This is a loss for me. It's at Nippard. We've been there. It's pretty loud. I imagine they're going to want to try and schedule it at night. And, I mean, the defense is just going to be there. And Desmond Ridder is coming back for, I think, his senior year. So he's going to be ready to go, too. So I think this is a loss for us. They're going to be prepared, too.
I'm actually going to say that, hopefully by this game and Malzahn's stamp on this team will help us win this game. I think we have the talent. We've always had the talent to compete with these teams. And I think Malzahn could be the difference to help the team as a whole mature and stay disciplined. And I say we take this W and kind of try to take the reins back in the American.
All right. I am also going to take the L here. I'm taking the loss. I think the experience of Cincinnati is going to be too much to overcome. And with only 5 games under the belt, and who knows what the offseason is going to look like, hopefully it's a normal offseason. I think Cincinnati might be the more cohesive unit. I think we'll be 5-1 after 6. Luke has us at 5-1, and Jacob has us at 6-0. And the winner of this game also kind of solidifies themselves in a pretty good spot to make the conference championship and possibly to make the New Year's Six bowl game. So that's another big factor in this game. And then we go on to avenge another double-digit blown lead. I think it was an 18-point lead that we blew against Memphis last season at Memphis. This time we're playing them at home. What do you guys got on this game?
That was Josh Heupel throwing the game. We were watching it. I mean, we felt like we were in control, could have iced it, just cruised to our victory. I think Josh Heupel just let it go. That's just bad coaching, I think. The Memphis team, as of late, doesn't look like the Mike Norvell Memphis teams that we've been playing in the past, where we were dogfighting tooth and nail to beat them. And I think just Josh Heupel, just like how we said before, his coaching just slipped away and blew a double-digit lead again. So I think this time we're going to have Memphis pretty handled.
And, I actually didn't really watch this game much last year because I was actually at a wedding, but I did see, the ending and that sucked. But like what you guys mentioned, though, we have these blown leads, and it's like I really feel like if we have the talent that we're like in these games with these teams, and then like it was like, oh, we blew a lead, we had poor decision making or poor like aggressiveness, I guess, in the game. I think that's where Malzahn will really show that, this is why we brought him in, and this is why it's such a great hire, that now our leader is someone that's done it on a level that Heupel has yet to even like get to. And if we have the talent to compete, and like I'm more so even thinking about Cincinnati still, like Memphis, I'm even more confident because of the way that was won last year. But that's where I feel like these close games with these top teams, Malzahn will show that he's solid for us.
Yeah, very few times in the last 2 seasons did it feel like the team caused us to lose. A lot of times it felt like the coaching caused us to lose. We never woke up on Sunday morning and said, gosh, if this player had just done this or that player had just done that. It was always the coaching. That was always the common denominator. And even though we lost that game to Memphis last year, we controlled them the whole game until the very end in the fourth quarter. And I feel like we still have Memphis's number. I'm also going to take a win here. Memphis was 1 game shy of the American Athletic Conference Championship last year. They lost it to Tulsa. Tulsa went on to play Cincinnati and lose. So Memphis is another quality team, a young coach there that's looking to build something as well. But I'm going to go with a win here at home. If it was at Memphis, I'd feel maybe a little bit different. But the win that Memphis had against UCF last year, I'm pretty sure was the first time Memphis had beaten UCF since like 2001. UCF is 13-2 against Memphis. And last year was the second loss to Memphis in 15 tries. So they'd beaten us the first time we ever played. They lost 12 in a row to us, and then they finally got over the UCF hump last year. I think we get back on track and win this game as well. I'm going to go with a win. Jacob, are you taking the win as well?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So Jacob has us at 7-0. Luke and I have us at 6-1. And we come off of 2 very important games, extremely important within the conference and within the national spotlight. Let's be real. Both those games could very well determine where we're ranked if we can win both those games. But we go to Temple, a team that struggled a lot with COVID-19 issues in 2020. They ended up only playing 7 games, whereas most of the conference played at least 10 or 11. Tulane actually played 12. But they're coming off of a 1-6 season. Temple seems to have fallen off pretty drastically since the last time they were good. There wasn't a slow decline. There seems to be a sharp decline. And UCF took care of Temple last year, 38-13. What do you guys think is happening this year?
I think this is W. Last time we were at Temple, I think we even smoked them even more, put up like 55 or something. It was ridiculous. It got laughable at one point. So maybe Dylan Gabriel likes Philly cheesesteaks or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm confident against the previous 2 games, I'm confident in this game too.
You know what here's what the funny thing is for me is if this game was against a team like Tulane or even like SMU or especially Tulsa, I would feel extremely nervous. Coming off of back-to-back extremely difficult games against Cincinnati and Memphis, to then have to go on the road to an SMU or a Tulsa or a Tulane, I'd be nervous. But the fact that it's Temple, I feel like the schedule kind of lines up for us very well. I am going to take the W as well. Not going to spend too much time on this game. We seem to play pretty well against Temple pretty frequently. So we'll take the W there. And then we go back home to the bounce house to play Tulane, a team that almost upset us in 2019. I think we ended up only winning by 4 points there. We ended up beating them by 17 last year at Tulane in a game that I was extremely nervous about. Tulane almost feels a lot like ECU to me. And as far as me getting nervous, I always feel like there's just a reason that I'm nervous, and that's Tulane for me. But being at home, again, we talk about home field advantage. Hopefully we're back to a full crowd. I don't really see any reason for UCF to stumble here in this spot.
No, same.
No, I think Tulane's actually a up-and-coming team. But I think last year the reason it was so close was coaching again. I mean, we keep harping on it, but it kept rearing its head. So that's the reason why it was close last year. But I think we're just a better overall team.
So are we all taking W's for Tulane? All taking wins there?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So then we go to SMU, which is a nervous game for me. This kind of feels a lot like going to Tulsa. But at SMU, they finished 8-1 overall last year, or we are 8-1 overall against SMU in history of playing them. We beat them 48-20 in 2018. So this will be the first time we've played them in 3 seasons. And they have not beaten UCF since 2011. So we kind of have their number as well. For a long time, they were in the Western division of the conference, so we wouldn't play them all the time. But what do you guys think of this game against SMU?
I mean, yeah, it's kind of like one of those teams that, you don't want to overlook. I'm not too worried about it either, especially if I feel so far on my predictions that we're gonna roll like we will with Malzahn. I think we should win this game. I don't really think we should be too worried about it, but it's definitely a team that you never know.
It's funny you say that. In conference, I think I'm more scared of SMU versus the Memphis at home, because SMU the last few years since we've played them, they've gotten a lot better. And I think on our schedule for in-conference play, SMU is our number 2 game.
And it's an away game.
Yeah, Cincinnati, SMU are tough, and they almost beat us in 2018. It actually took a pretty miracle type win. It was just the offense in 2018 when we played them or in 2017. It was 2017. The offense was not moving the ball at all, and they were, and we somehow still came out on top, which felt like the whole season. We kind of thought that in a lot of instances. But yeah, I agree. This is a team that you cannot overlook. Like I said, if this was after the Memphis game, I would be more scared coming off of 2 of those games versus and then at SMU. But I'm going to take the win here as well. And I would say 3 weeks ago, I would probably have said a loss. But after what I've seen over the last 3 weeks from Malzahn, I kind of am more hopeful, I guess, that we will win these types of close games, or what we think are close games. Because you got to think, this is like him at Auburn playing Mississippi State, or like him at Auburn playing a team like Kentucky. Vandy or Kentucky. So, and I think he had some pretty good success beating the teams he should beat. I think we see that again here. Civil conflict, 5-2 overall against UConn since we started playing them. They are no longer in the conference. We have them as a non-conference opponent. Oh, goody. 56-21 in 2019, and they have not beaten us since 2015. Is this like a Bethune-Cookman game?
Yep.
Yeah, I say we shut them out.
Shut them out.
We shut them out.
We find the trophy. We dig it up from wherever it is, and we find the trophy and secure that trophy. So
shut them out.
All right, and then we finish the season with South Florida, Florida. Last year, just tied the series there. We've played them 12 times. We're now 6-6 overall against South Florida. 4-game win streak, and the last time they beat us was 2016. We have had their number since 2017. This game's at home, so hopefully we get – hey, let's be real. COVID did not impact South Florida. They don't have fans anyway, so their stadium looked like normal. but you come to the bounce house. We saw what a full crowd can do against any team back in 2017 with that Mike Hughes kick return.
Yeah, do you think that since that's the stadium they play in, they're going to have any like Super Bowl hangover? Even though they're already trash, they're just going to get extra trash because of that?
Yeah, they're going to feel like that hangover from the Super Bowl, and they might
too hard celebrating it.
They don't know what success feels like, so that stadium doesn't know what to do, actually.
Yeah, they'll be like, oh my gosh, this is where Tom Brady won the Super Bowl on our field.
Any comments about South Florida for you, Luke?
I'm taking a W. Getting pretty reckless on Memory Mall and taking a W again. South Florida is
on
bad.
Blackout Friday.
Blackout Friday
Against S. Florida.
Yeah, I only have us losing one game on the schedule, and it's Cincinnati. Whereas if with Josh Heupel, I think I'd have us losing like 4.
Oh,
yeah, so you have us going 11-1. Jacob has us going 12-0.
I will say though, if there's a game we do lose, I agree with you, Luke. It would be Cincy, but I do think we can. I think we can go 12-0.
So we have 12-0 and then 2 11-1s. You're spot on, Luke. 3 weeks ago when I did this before Malzahn got hired, before this recruiting stuff happened, Malzahn had already gotten hired, I believe. But before all this recruiting stuff happened, all I was thinking was, okay, it's a new coach. It's going to be a learning curve year. Well, now we've seen all that kind of get washed away. It looks like UCF is recruiting at the top level. I had us probably going 9-3. Now I have us at 11-1. I had us losing to Memphis, and I also had us losing to SMU. But now I think that Cincinnati game is the only one we lose. And if it was at home, I think we would take that one as a win. So
yeah, my 4 losses were the same, and then Boise State.
Oh, okay. So you had Boise State there too as a loss. I might have had them. I don't know. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are we that we don't see Tulsa on this schedule?
Electric.
They are 9-3 against us in 12 attempts in the history of playing them. It's insane. Not to mention, maybe actually, here's a hot take. Gus Malzahn is actually maybe the antidote that gets us over Tulsa because he used to coach at Tulsa. So maybe he is the key that we need, it almost like Iron Man's heart or whatever, that's going to get us past.
He's like the vaccine. We just got the Tulsa vaccine, and now they won't be able to
beat us. Tulsa 19 is now dead, so we will beat Tulsa. I like it. Also, Luke, Jacob, I know we've taken some fun trips in the past. Need your opinion looking at this schedule. Final question for you. What's the number 1 or number 2 away trips that you're looking forward to this year? And I'm holding you to it, Jacob. You're coming with us, so.
I liked going back to Cincinnati, and then we can go to DFW, Dallas Fort Worth for SMU.
That's literally the 2 games I looked at as well.
Billy Bob's.
Double down on Cincy. Go to Pins. That's the spot. But then, Dallas for SMU.
All right, at Cincinnati, over under 0.5 people to potentially pee themselves.
Hopefully under.
Yeah, I would say hopefully under. Are we taking the same group?
All right, over under 0.5 times we hear gunshots.
Over. I'll take the over all day.
Over. I'll take the over there as well. I'll agree with that. And Luke, you take care of the trip to Dallas. You have all my money anyway, so you take care of the Dallas trip. I'll figure out the Cincinnati trip. Get with Lori and Elmo. Make sure they know we're coming to Dallas. And we'll get with some sketchy people in Cincinnati to make sure we can get our Airbnb back.
Hell yeah.
Does that work for you guys? Any closing statements? Nothing from the peanut gallery. I like it. So pretty successful season for UCF. If that's the case, we might have to do another one of these closer to the season based on some more recruiting stuff and maybe some schedule announcements. We need to get some more teams on the schedule. I think Terry Mohajer said on Mike Bianchi's open mic that he's looking to reach out to Danny White to maybe get Tennessee scheduled at some time in the future. And also look at maybe reevaluating the scheduling philosophy and maybe get some bigger opponents on the schedule for the future. And hopefully we could beat them at their place, at our place, or anywhere we might play. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. If you're on Spotify, Apple, be sure to go watch us on YouTube, any podcast streaming platform you might be on. Be on the lookout for the video elements on YouTube, and be sure to go follow us on all social media platforms as well. And until next time, take care and go make this world a better place. Thanks.
How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man?